because there is a good example from binary. Kaya na lang. From binary, there is a code for corresponding code for A. So you can print this one. So that is why ganiha, when we output character B, it outputs the decimal value of 0.66. And the code for small letter B, it's not the same with the code for letter A, for the big letter B. So the code for decimal value for letter B is 0.98. So character can store these ASCII values. So whatever the ASCII values could be stored A abot L. So dili nakaka-store og value like that is why when we print 1, so asa mo tong value sa 1, started with 33 ang A. So ang 1 ana, I don't know where is the 1. So nara ang 1. 1 1 1 starts. So I am not good at it for memorizing all of this bunch of special codes. That is why if you want to really output uh, 1 on character here, if you want to output 1, you should use int. You enclose with it integer. So that is also that we can use really the number 1 number. Okay? Because if you don't use integer, only the ASCII value will prevail always in car. Right? Muna, muna siya a value for ASCII for 1. Smiley. So if you want to store value, you enclose it with integer. So that makes that the integer value of this one will be used for character. So you cannot use like um, a combination of A and B. Okay, because there is, can we have it A and B? So 66. So malibog siya 66 because 66 is B and A. So dili siya because C plus character can store it one bit, one byte. So kinalan one single lang value ani for you to, so kung ganahan ka for character, A lang siya to get the value for that one. So probably you can memorize it if you want, but seldom na ta mo gamit og character. So if you want intend a number, ato na lang ka sa integer. That A is 65 and B is 66, for example. So really, if you want to get to know for the data type, if your value is from ranging from 0 to 255 or negative 27 to 27, you will use car for it. So or you can use unsigned car for negative 0 to number 25. But usually, even though we are using 1, we always use integer, right, for our data type for numbers. But we forgot that there is a character if from 0 to 255. So the best practice if you are using values like 0 to 255, use car. So why? Because integer can only hold this value. So from 0 to 200, it is not 200 anymore. It is million, right? How many digits do we have? 3, 6, 9. So we have billion, 200 billion. So that is two-way for integer. So sometimes large numbers, it depends on the program that you need. Pero here, integer. More for us to not na hindi ta maglisod, always remember those things na lang. Kanina lang imong hunahunahon or those the primitive data types, global, void, boolean. Those are things to make much more secure. So kana din lang if the program specification, if store a large, as I said, di na makaya sa integer, this is the time you are going to use this short, long int and whatsoever, unassigned int. But as long as the simple lang na program that you're working, is only primitive type available in C++. So I'm just showing you how we can use integer character in our program. But seldom na kanya siya na approach. So we all know that the types is we can set data types for a variable. So meaning we need to classify what type of data we are going to store. Before we store data, we need to know what kind of data that we're going to store because variable is a storage or placeholder of data. So this is how we do that. This is the name of the variable and we assign a value of it, a character. So every time that it is holds the value character. Always remember that one. That this variable is having a value of character. And whatever the data you are going to store it is always a character. So there are many ways to incorporate. So as long as there is a variable, there should be a data type of it. So send lang kayo siya i-incorporate na to. So it's like what we want to do is like for example, if you want maglungag ta, so magluto tag kanon. So what is our data type? So what is the kind of storage that we are use? Unsa man if maglungag ta.
Caldero.
Okay, so kaldero. So sakto, kaldero dili rice cooker. So it depends on you. 'Di ba? So ug maglungag ta kinalan what type of data ato ang kuanon i-align. Since mo store man ta og number, you align it with integer. Kung mo store ta og number with decimal places, we store it on double or float. If we store it with value, we void. So those are data data in Java, in C++. So di man ta siguro maglungag na mauga, di ba? So dili siya pwede. So the same here in our data type. So there are many data types you can search on the internet or the implementations, the full definition of. So right now, okay, remember the variable is a placeholder or a storage of data. Since we now take data, because there is data in our program that we're going to process. We store it and we will process it. So remember that a variable has its name, okay? And there is a naming convention in a variable. It should be one word. It should start with letter, okay? And it is unique, diba? And do not use reserved words. What's reserved words? Since you're using the namespace as standard, the compiler will determine if you're using the reserved word or the reserved keywords. Like for example, using, you cannot use the word using because using is a reserved word. Namespace, you cannot use this namespace because it is a reserved word. STD, that is a reserved word. Int, that is a reserved word. Main, that is a reserved keyword or word. This is a reserved. So everything that we use always, that is reserved. And we can our variable the same keyword. We cannot create char using because it will mean that this is a reserved word. So if you see the list of reserved words in C++, you may search on the internet because there are many reserved keywords in C++. So you can also use the documentation for C++ for really know what is the reserved words. Always bear in mind that you can use a lot of words. Binisay on, like example, numero, it is this always okay because how you are going to name it. Okay, it's not purely lang English that you are going to use here for our naming convention. It can only on our dialect. Ang ato lang na ato syntax in for English because the developer of this language are mga uh, English person who developed this C++ language. So that is why the syntax like R, C, out, using namespace are in English language because the developer of this language are Englishmen. But in being a variable, we should know that it's not limited only for English words. We can create our own in our own dialect. Like for example, number uno. It depends on you because make sure that the first letter is of the variable name is a letter. The first word is letter. Dili siya number. And the variable name of numbers. It can be at the here or at the end. And we can also use underscore or so numero uno. Like for example, that makes us create a variable. So any questions about variable name? Ator man ning variable ha. So para makakuan ta. Okay, any questions about naming a variable? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Answer.
Wala na, sir.
Okay, so in naming a variable, remember, if we name a variable, for example, int uh, numero dos, so it's the same, numero dos. So here, we name it. So basically, the process of that is declaration. Okay, we declare variable. So variable declaration. Okay, then we can assign value, which is initialization. Numero dos, since that is integer, so we can assign value of it like 5, since that is integer. And this process is what we call variable initialization. Initialization. Initial. Initialization. So we declare variable and we initialize it. Okay, so there are it's the same thing in our katong ato ang class in declaration and initialization. But we can also do the same this one at the top that first in one line we declare and also initialize. So we declare and initialize the same thing. It's up to you. Okay? So that is how we declare initialize variable. And also we can do multiple declaration. Like for example, on int, for example, you see A, B, C. So we can have these kinds of variable declaration where in one line you declare three variables with the same data type. As long as they are the same, you want it that all of those variables are the same data type, you can use it like this for declaring a variable. So we can also initialize it. Pero initialize sometimes it is nice to have in one line. Like A is equal to 5. No. We cannot do like and comma B is equal to 10. It will make you have an error if that will be your coding. Okay. First is numero dos. Sorry, that is numero. Numero. So I ran it. I think it's not. I think it's working like this kind. Okay. Okay. In C++, it is working. Inani na multiple declaration or initialization of your variable. Yeah. Have you tried this kind of technique that we can do multiple declaration? Pwede ra na siya in C++, di ay. To save time also, or to save space. Because pwede ra pod siya A is equal to 10, B is equal to 11, C is equal to 12. So, initialization. Pwede po siya individual line in initialization. So, it's up to you how you will go, how will you will perform. So, any questions for this declaration of variable and initialization of variable? So, asa inyong bet, it's up to you. Asa man? Can I hear feedback? Hello? Napamodera.
Yes, sir.
So, any questions? So, si Crystal Gale, ganahan siya individual. Okay. Basta ruling is, if you use one line, the separator is comma. Okay. The separator is comma for the variables. Okay, the ruling is, the ganiya is you cannot now declare the same name of the variable within the same scope. You have now the same scope here. So you can only create a variable A once, create variable B once, variable C once. You can also only create one variable. So kani wala man tani create ani. Kung unsa ra man tani, we only assign a value. We initialize it. We assign value lang. Pero we assign multiple values of our variable, which is that is okay because in our program we can assign multiple values anywhere in the same variable. But in a program, you cannot create the same name once the name is being declared, even though it is not the same data type. Like for example, in I will here, I will declare uh, double A. So what will happen for this one? Okay, there is an error. Error A has a previous declaration as int. So you cannot use A since it is already been used on your program. Remember that. Use it. So you cannot create the same name in the same scope. Now, my question is, asa man jud dapita nato ibutang ato mga variables here? Is it pwede ra ibutang sa taas jud, ibutang sa ubos, or whatsoever? Asa man jud asa nato ibutang ang atong variable? The nicest place where we can put our variables.
Sir.
Taas, sir.
Yes, when we declare variables, as much as we can, we will put it at the top. Remember, in creating a program, there is no such way as surprising that is variable that we're going to create. No, before you write codes, you determine first in your program specification, you determine first there on your planning stage what are those variables needed to your program. So that is the first thing na imuhang analyze before you go to the actually writing your codes. That means the variables that we are going to use in your programs are being considered directly. So that is why the best place that you can have in your variable is at the top, tanan gyud at the top here. So tanan naka-declare na tanan ang sa top. So that deal is for code organization and arrangement. But in here, the assignment, we can don't know where to place that one because that is the assignment. So that is why ang assignment, anywhere in the codes, we can assign value to it. But first we know and we can recognize what is now the real value of that variable. So right now, since we put here values for A, B, C, and we have an individual value here for A, B, C. Now when I output A, what is now the value for A? Can we know what is now the actual value of A right now? You can type your answer or you can just use your microphone. Hello? So what will be now the value for A? If I will output this program since the you output letter A, so what will now the value for this? Anyone? Si Crystal Gale siya 10 or 5. Safe kay siya. Safe kay siya niingon na 10 or 5.
Error na, sir.
Error, next na yung error. Si
Renard, sir.
Okay. So ato it run og run. And the output is tadan. Oh, error man jud ni siya kay na man jud ni siya double no. We need to remove it. I will just remove the error that caused the error. And the answer is 10. So wala siya na error. 10. The answer, the value now is 10. Who can who can give your insight why why the value is 10?
Doon siya sa see out, sir.
Yes, yes. That's correct. Duol siya sa see out. So meaning kung asang duol, asa mo prevail. Okay, that is correct. But the most correct answer of it is, remember a while ago, since this is not a object-oriented programming approach, we are using an actual procedural programming. The top to bottom approach is still approachable here and still working on it. So meaning the compiler starts working and analyzing your code from top to bottom, right? So meaning it starts reading here the comments, start reading here the variables and the declaration of until all those values here. In this part in your program, we declare A, B, C, and that's this part of program assign value for 5. But on the other one here, 925, there is a new value for A, and value of A is only a storage. So just think like that, like you are just putting in one box. It's only one box, like a box for a shoe box, or like a box like any kinds of box that there is now an item of it. Here, the box is still from freshly created. It's now empty. On line 23, we have now a box with a value of 5. Now, since the protocol and the meaning of variable is only you can store only one variable at a time. So all you need to do is if you see when a compiler see another value on the